Are you contemplating your entire career path right now? Or maybe you're still in school and you're like, wait, is this still what I want to do with my life? Well, you're not alone, friend. Welcome back to Find Your Power podcast. I am your host, Avery Jane. And I was actually planning on making an episode today on an entirely different topic than this one. But then I started going through this entire questioning spiral myself these past few days, and I figured that was a sign to talk about it today. As someone who's currently still in school, and for something that is healthcare related or in the field of healthcare, I have to go to school for many years before I can actually start my career or start the job that I want to have. And this can really make one question many times if all of that school is really worth it. Now, I don't think questioning where you're at right now and the path that you're on necessarily means that you chose wrong, but it does mean that there's probably something worth paying attention to that could be lacking or that could be not fitting right, if that makes sense. So, I know firsthand that questioning your career path and your entire future almost can feel really scary. And I think that's because we're taught to pick something and stick with it, right? We're taught to pick a major, pick a career path, and stick with it. But sometimes questioning can be really useful because it forces you to check in with yourself instead of just staying on autopilot and going through the motions of what you think you're supposed to do, like the career that you're supposed to go for. So, today, my goal is to just kind of help you guys through this if you are going through this like myself, and maybe just kind of talk about some steps, plan of action to take while we are going through this mental crisis of our career path and our job path, because it feels like a never ending spiral when you get into this sometimes, and it feels like sometimes it feels like there's no way out except just quitting. Or quitting what you're doing, or quitting the career path that you're on currently and switching to an entirely different new one. But I think there's a lot of different other options. I think there's a lot of other options that are not just quitting that can be really helpful. So, that's why I'm here today, just kind of going through some ideas on steps you can take to get out of this spiral and hopefully give you better clarity on why you're feeling this way, why you're feeling not in the right position with your career, and potentially finding other routes to take if that is the answer for you. So, when you first start feeling off about your career or your job path, the first step is figuring out why you feel off and what's maybe missing or lacking, what's feeling off in the job that you're in now or the path that you're on right now, and what do you feel like you're missing. So before you completely change your major or quit your job or just spiral and think that you ruined your whole life, because that definitely can happen, ask yourself what part of this job feels off, because usually it's not the entire thing. Usually it's not like, oh my gosh, everything about this I hate. Because if that was the case, you probably wouldn't have picked it in the first place. There was probably some aspects that you did enjoy, or you do still enjoy, or you do like. So, what about it specifically makes it seem really not good anymore, or just kind of off? So it could be the actual work itself. It could be what you're doing for the job. It doesn't feel right to you anymore. Maybe it's going against your moral code. Maybe it just doesn't feel fulfilling like you wanted it to. Or maybe it's the environment that you're in. I did have an episode, 2 episodes back, about um, being in the wrong environment. So if you find that that's the answer to why you're feeling off, maybe go check out that episode because that could help you with some clarity on just changing your environment up a little bit. But maybe it's the environment of the job, maybe it's the people of the job. That one can also be included in the environment, but then again, it's different, the environment versus the people. So it could be the people. Maybe it's the schedule. The schedule of the job is just not what you expected, or just wasn't, it's just not working for you the way that it actually is. It could even be the lack of creativity in this job. Maybe you realize that you like to be more creative than the job is allowing you to be, or the job is less stable than you wished. It could even be the pressure of the job itself. Maybe it's more pressure than you expected, or the school is more pressure than you anticipated as well. Maybe the lifestyle that the job brings is not really the lifestyle that you were looking for. Maybe this job requires you to travel for work, and that's not the kind of lifestyle that you wanted. Maybe you wanted to kind of have a more settled down job, or maybe this lifestyle doesn't allow you to travel and you wanted to travel. So, looking at kind of what is missing, what is lacking, maybe it's none of those, but those were just some examples. This is important because we sometimes think that we hate the entire career, like I said, but a lot of times it's not the entire thing. It's just certain things about it that are not really matching up anymore. For example, if I'm overthinking the job of becoming a PT, a physical therapist, I might think that I just hate healthcare in general. But to be honest, there's so many different aspects in healthcare that you can go into. And so it's likely that I don't hate the entire healthcare field in general because I wanted to do something in healthcare in the first place. And I think I enjoy that. I don't think that's what's lacking for me. I think it's something different. So it might be something more specific, and that's something that I have to really figure out first. So the next step after you kind of figure out what this thing is that's lacking or missing in your current job or career path, then you need to realize if this is misalignment or maybe it's burnout. Because there's a chance that you feel like you're not aligned with this job. But if you're already in it, you could just be getting burnt out from it. You could just be working too much. It could be the right job for you, but maybe you just need to cut back your hours. Or maybe you just need to try a slightly different version of the job because it's getting repetitive. Sometimes you really don't need a whole new path. You just need rest and better boundaries and maybe a different environment, like I said. Burnout is going to sound like you're exhausted. Maybe you don't care about anything right now. Maybe you can't tell if you hate the job or if you're just getting overwhelmed. Whereas misalignment is going to sound a little more like this doesn't feel like me, who I am. Or I can do it, but I don't want to have this type of lifestyle. Or I keep being pulled towards something else. Even I feel like I'm forcing myself to become someone that I'm not. That could be more like misalignment. And this is where these things can be very important to evaluate because you don't want to make these life changing decisions just from a completely exhausted mindset. Because it could be the fact that you just are exhausted and you don't need to completely switch routes or switch career paths or whatever. It could just be that you are needing a little bit of a break or maybe needing a slightly different environment with the same job or the same career. Third step kind of ties back into the first one because once you identify what feels off in this job, you do need to kind of figure out what is missing, what you can add. Maybe this is for your new career, new job, what specifically you want to look for that's different in the job that you have now, if you do feel like a career change is what's right for you. What's lacking in the job that you have now? Is it creativity? Maybe you're missing human connection. Maybe you're missing freedom, structure, purpose, challenge, stability, movement, leadership, flexibility, growth, or even a work life balance. So, any of these things that you're missing can be one of your first priorities in looking for a job or career that's different, that includes this. That includes these things that you need in your career. Or it could be that you are just missing this in your life in general. You don't even need to find it in your career. You can find it somewhere else in your life. It could be that your path, your career path, or your job is not completely wrong, but one of these major things is missing, or it feels like it's missing in your life, and you may be able to find it in different ways. For example, if you feel like growth is missing in your life, you feel like you're very steady, maybe switching up your career is not exactly what you need, but maybe just growing in your career. Maybe that's growing growing up the corporate ladder, or maybe it's even just getting more certifications within your career or your job that can go along with the job that you're working now. Or maybe your growth can be found somewhere outside of your job. Maybe that's growth in just your personal life. Maybe you start to set more goals for yourself outside of work, like fitness, in regards to diet, in regards to lifestyle changes, and growth in relationships, whatever it may be. You can find these things. Sometimes these things are feel like they're lacking, but you don't just have to look for them in a job. So after you find this, the next step is going to be looking at your personality, not just your resume. I actually did also have an entire episode on this as well, kind of designing your job to your personality rather than just what you have done or what you're good at. And this might mean a career can look good on paper and sound really good to do, but maybe it doesn't feel actually good in your life. You can be capable of doing something and you can be really good at it, but it may still not align with who you are as a person and your personality. When it comes to this question, you do need to dive into your own personality, kind of do a little bit of self reflection, a little bit of self evaluation, and kind of maybe ask yourself some questions about what you like in what you want to have in a job. Like if you like fast paced or slow paced environments, maybe you like working with people or mostly independent, maybe you need a variety, or maybe you need a routine that's very steady. Do you want emotional meaning in your work, or do you prefer something more practical or more separate from your personal life? Do you want a career that becomes part of your identity, or do you want to work to just support the life that you want? Because those can also be very different things. This can really help you from just finding the job or career that sounds impressive, but finding one that actually fits you and your personality best. After this, the next important step to take is to make small experiments before making huge decisions. So you don't have to immediately go change your major or drop out of college or quit your job or even restart your entire life. It may feel like that's the only answer, but I promise you there's other options if you haven't tried them yet. So sometimes the smartest thing you can do is just to test the waters a little bit. Test a little small path here, test that little idea there, while still continuing on the path that you're on if it feels okay, because you don't want to completely just give it up if you haven't tried other things first. In my opinion, I think that you should still keep the idea of the job that you were already on the path for if you still feel able to, because that's kind of like your backup plan if one of these other new things doesn't work out. And it's good to always have a backup plan. So honestly, this section, this step or as you may call it, is one that I is the part that I really need to take my own advice in, because I think that I put my mind to something like this career or this job and I just go straight for it and I just put a lot of effort into it. And of course, that's not a bad thing. But if I start second guessing the career or the job path that I'm on, it can make things complicated because then I have no time to focus on something slightly different if I want to try out other things. So, in this step, this may include just shadowing, maybe shadowing a different field or someone else in a different, slightly different field that you may be interested in, you may be thinking about. In college, taking a class or an elective or something like that in a subject that's not following your major, something else that you're interested in. See see how well that class goes. See if this is something that actually interests you when you're learning about it. Maybe listen to podcasts like this one, maybe, potentially, or videos on YouTube or whatever, from people in the career that you want to get into or in other careers that you're considering. Maybe volunteer in a related setting. If you can't get into shadow, maybe try to volunteer or volunteer in a similar setting than one that you're going into or one that you're considering changing into, or even just one that you think sounds kind of cool. Applying for part time jobs or internships in different fields can be a really good way to also get your foot in the door to see if you even enjoy that. So, that is what I'm doing right now as well. I am working a part time job in a physical therapy clinic, and that is also helping me kind of realize, is this something that I want to go to 3 years of doctorate school for, you know? But of course, there's so many different branches of different practices that you can also explore. So, if you do this option, like I said, I'm trying to take my own advice here, but maybe branching out to more than one different clinic or different practices. Um, Also asking someone that you may know that is in that field that you are going into or you're planning on going into or that you're thinking of changing into. Asking people that are already in that field, what does their day to day look like? What do they enjoy? You know, people are usually pretty prone to talking about their job and their work, especially if they enjoy it. So that shouldn't be too hard to find someone to ask about that. If you are in college, maybe joining a club has a career field that's different from the one you're going into, or if you already are past college, you're already in your career, maybe just finding a networking event where you can discover new jobs or new branches of the job that you're in. Trying a side project that's related to an interest that you are considering, getting some kind of course to learn more about the other side job that you are thinking about if you don't have the option to learn about it in school, or switching settings within the same field before leaving the entire field as a whole. So, like I said, if you are feeling like the environment or the people in the job that you're in now is just not what's feeling right, maybe you just need to kind of switch your setting in that field and not completely leaving the field as a whole. So you're allowed to gather all this information before you make a decision, and it's actually a good idea to do that. The next step, this one kind of ties back into the last one, but diving more specifically into talking to people that live in that career that you're thinking about or that you're interested in. So a lot of us choose careers based on title and not lifestyle. So it's a good idea to talk to people who are actually in the job, and you can ask more honest questions like, what does your normal day look like? What do you love about this job? What do you not like about this job? What do you wish you knew before choosing this job? What kind of personality does well in this field? And all of these types of questions. I mean, of course, don't go up to someone and start hectoring them, interviewing them, but I think a lot of times people, especially if they know you at least a little bit, could be very willing to give you these answers. because a lot of times people are willing to help. Step can really help people see past the aesthetic of the career, what it looks like from the outside perspective, and really understand what the people in it already think of it. Another step you can take is don't ignore the practical side. So it's okay to care about a passion, a purpose, and fulfillment, but it's also okay to care about money and job security and school and schedule and lifestyle because, of course, you have to consider all of it when you go into a job. And the hard truth of it is that sometimes the job that fulfills your purpose or your passion may not be the one that can support the life that you want on a financial standpoint. So, of course, that's something to consider because following your passion and your purpose, it is a great idea, but sometimes you may have to realize that you also have bills, you have rent, you have groceries, and you have future goals that you want to meet with this job as well. But on the other hand, if you choose something that's just practical, it just will pay your bills, it just will provide you with the financial support that you're looking for, and not really fulfill your purpose or your passion so much, this can leave you feeling empty. So, kind of trying to find a sweet spot that's in between there. Maybe even that's having two part-time jobs. Something like that one of them is more for financial and one of them is more for your purpose and your fulfillment. Finding a lifestyle that can kind of give you both. It may sound a little difficult at first, but I believe that all of us can get there and just trying to find something that can support you and make you still feel aligned enough not to drain you every single day working in that job. So, with all of this being said, you also want to give yourself permission to change your mind because changing your mind doesn't mean that you failed at what you were trying to do. It just means that you are learning more about yourself and maybe you're doing a little more self-evaluation. Maybe you're just not the same person that you were when you first started this job or started the career path, started the school that you're in. Maybe you're not the same person who accepted the job that you're in now. Maybe that was so long ago. Things have changed. Maybe you're not the same person who picked your major in the first place. You were, what, 17, 18 when you did that, and now that was so many years ago. So you're allowed to evolve, and your goals are allowed to evolve with you. And you can change your ideas, change your plan, change your path, and change your mind. And I know sometimes it's hard to allow yourself to change your mind because you may think, oh my gosh, I just spent so many years doing this. Now, if I change my mind, it's like I'm throwing it all away. But you're never throwing anything away for spending time on it because somewhere in there you learned, you grew, and you wouldn't be the same person you are today if you wouldn't have done that. So nothing was a waste of time, nothing was for nothing because all of it helped you grow and become who you are today. And you wouldn't know what you wanted or what you didn't want if you wouldn't have gone through that in the past. This is also time spent that gives you clarity and helped you learn. And that's never a waste of time. The last step in this spiral, the last step in this process is knowing when it might be time to make a bigger change. So maybe you've gone through all these steps already and you realize, yeah, this job that I'm in right now, this career path that I'm working towards is really not for me. After these small experiments, the reflection, the conversations, you may realize, yeah, this really isn't for me. This may mean that it's time to make a change. Some other signs that you may look for when you're thinking about, is it time to make a change, could be if you constantly dread the future version of this career. That's not a good sign. If you feel more energized learning about another path than the one that you're currently learning about. If you've tried changing your environment but the work itself is still feeling off or wrong, if your values or your morals don't match your career, or if you're only staying in the career path that you're in because of fear, guilt, or because of other people's opinions. If any of these apply to you after going through these different steps, it may be a good time to try something new. And like I said, this doesn't mean that you have to right away just quit what you're doing now. It could just mean putting your foot in the door to a different path, a different job, or a different learning path. Maybe it's taking different classes in this path if you're still in college before changing your entire major. Maybe this means, doing an internship or doing a part time job on the side in this other career before you really make that entire switch. Or if you're just ready for it, you can go dive right into it. It's up to you at the end of the day. I'm just here to help you guys out in finding your power. So, to start to end this episode, you don't need to have your whole life figured out right now. And I think you guys know this by now. If you do listen to this podcast, I say this all the time. You don't need to have your entire life figured out right now. Questioning your path is not a crisis. It can honestly just be a checkpoint. The goal when this happens is try not to panic and don't immediately just change everything because sometimes that may not end well. The goal is to just be honest, get curious with what's out there, and gather more information about what you want and what you're looking for and what's out there. And then you can make the next right move. So sometimes contemplating your career path isn't a sign that you're lost. It could be a sign that you're finally paying attention to what you actually want and not just following the motions of life. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening today to Find Your Power. I'm glad that you're here. I know you may be going through a lot right now and you may be going through a mental crisis, but I'm glad that you joined me here today for this episode. And I really hope that this helped at least a little bit. I know it's hard and I know it's stressful when you are contemplating life like this, contemplating your career choices, and it just happens to the best of us, and we're all in this together. If this helped at all, please comment below. I really would like to hear from you guys. Let me know what career path you guys are on right now, what job you're in right now, and maybe which one are you thinking of switching to. Let's all just have a big conversation about it in the comment section. Tune in every Thursday to listen or watch on YouTube or Spotify, and I'm also on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and Audible for audio only. Make sure to check out the Instagram or the TikTok where you'll see even more of me and hear even more from me at Find Your Power _podcast. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can also click the bell notification on there in order to get notified when I post. Although you already know it's every Thursday. And also, if you enjoy and you think that there is someone else in your life that benefit from this podcast or this episode, please send it to them. It really helps the podcast grow and they may thank you later for it. And lastly, if you'd like to be featured for an interview or a conversation on the podcast, please send me an email at the email linked in the podcast description section. I will talk to you guys again soon. And don't forget, we will find your power.